Cardinal fans, how we doing tonight? Thank you. Here at the Winchester Pub and live on YouTube, this is another edition of the UIW Coaches Show with our head coach, Clint Killo. Coach, thank you very much for taking some time out of your busy week. You weren't that busy last week with the bye week, but I think it was much needed for your team. And like you just said, you're kind of bored and ready to get back at it.
Yeah, no doubt. A little bit of idle time. It's good and it's bad. Get to heal up some of the bumps and bruises. We were a little banged up in some areas, so it was good from that standpoint. We got some good work and work on some of the fundamental things that we do offensively, defensively, special teams wise, clean some things up and address some issues. But yeah, we're chomping at the bit. We're ready to get back to it.
Yeah, how do you kind of, when you look at the schedule and prepare for your bye week, what kind of goes into it? I know from a differences standpoint of during the week and game weeks versus bye weeks,
Yeah.
do you lighten the load? Do you kind of do more
Yeah.
prep work, or what does that look like?
Yeah, we definitely lighten the practice pretty significantly. We probably a 50% reduction each day. We'll practice Tuesday through Thursday, get some good work again, a bunch of indie periods, a little bit less team scouted and stuff like that. Which towards the end of the week we do some more light scouts for the week upcoming. And then we do some early in the week. We do some self scout stuff that really helps us sharpen our skill sets.
Yeah, what did you find out about your team? Obviously, you needed to kind of get healthy, but just kind of those tweaks right before Prairie View A&M, because they're your last contest before the big season with conference play coming up.
Yeah, we have a good football team. We really do. We play really well on the offensive side of the ball when we catch a rhythm and we go fast. Which we were able to do against NAU. We were able to really run the football effectively. Obviously, we had almost a 200-yard rusher into Kalen Taylor, so our run game kind of came alive, which is a huge boost, especially as much as we put it in the air. And then defensively, we got a bend but don't break defense, that's for sure. And they kind of came alive too. So we've got some momentum out of that NAU game. And again, that was probably one of the things that you like the bye week timing just so you can heal up some bumps and bruises and self-scout and stuff. But momentum is king in football. So that was the biggest thing, is just continuing the momentum through that bye week into a good Prairie View team and then getting into conference play.
Mm-hmm. And you talk about you're building a standard, your standard of excellence. You hear it a lot of times of, okay, it's not necessarily a relaxed time being in the bye week. It's, hey, we have to attack the bye week and win it. Just kind of describe that mentality, because I think it's human nature to be at a high like you were, and then kind of let yourself relax and take that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
rest.
definitely human nature to relax. It's probably human nature to be average, to be totally honest with you. We talk a whole lot about intentionality and winning with intention in the program, and that's kind of the pillars that we build things on. And one of those main pieces of intention is the detail of things, and that's something that you really got to harp on in the bye week. One thing that I'm really proud of is the relationship that I have with the team and the conversations that we're able to have, and the open dialogue and the authenticity and the transparency that we communicate with. So it was made very clear that the standard was going to be at a high level in terms of focus and intention. We weren't going to be out there and just all day long doing all these things and just doing them just to check boxes, but we were going to get out there and get good intentional work and get better.
Yeah, outside of the football side, what did you do to kind of escape and use the bye week for some other things?
Went home a little bit earlier, that's for sure. I got to spend some time with my wife and my daughter. My daughter KK is getting some real personality to her. That's good and bad, I guess. She kind of rules the world right now. Man, I just went home a little bit earlier. Got to go to bed a little bit earlier. I kind of tried to keep the same routine. I didn't want to get off track by any means. But a little bit, I keep going back to, I was able to watch our tape, and really dive into the things that we do well, guys that are playing well, guys that maybe need a little bit more touches and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big question for me, is how much are you watching other games versus just your tape? Or are you just so invested and kind of locked in on, hey, it's about us versus worrying about future opponents or the big game of
Yeah.
Alabama versus Georgia
Yeah.
at the FBS level?
Yeah, or I mean, early in the week was really the self-reflection and the self-scout and stuff. And as the week went on, we started to dive into Prairie View and a couple other teams that are upcoming. Obviously, we have some big conference games to open that schedule. And then we get into the weekend. I kind of enjoy being a fan every now and then when I get the chance to. I don't get very many, but yeah, I got to watch a couple of in-conference games, which are really good games. The conference is really strong this year. I got to watch Alabama Georgia game. My grandmother also turned 89 on Saturday, so there was a lot of
Awesome.
women in my house, so the TV wasn't always mine.
Yeah,
But yeah, I got to hang out a little bit, watch a little bit of football, and just not be head coach for a day.
exactly.
Just be Clint Killow and hang out.
Happy belated birthday to
Yeah, no doubt.
Grandma. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I was. It's even interesting too, looking at kind of former guys doing really well. Cam Ward,
Yeah.
uh, they're
I
one of the
did watch the
Miami.
Miami game.
Yeah,
Yep, that's right.
I mean, you were there when, or you were a coach on the
Mhm.
staff when he was here for the season, and
Yep.
then obviously went to Washington State with
Yep.
Coach Morris, and then is now in South Florida having a Heisman hopeful type of year. What about him just makes him a special athlete that UIW fans got to see when he was in San Antonio?
Yeah.
Now the entire country's getting to see.
He's got that it that everybody talks about. I don't think I've ever seen him nervous or out of his own composure. You kind of, no matter what the scoreboard says, he's kind of always in control when the ball's in his hands. Obviously, he's got incredible arm talent. He can make every throw in the book. He can hit every arm angle. He's sneaky elusive in the pocket, which was always fun to watch. He's just a gamer. He galvanizes people around him, and he's a winner. And he's a great dude.
Hmm.
If you were to just sit over here and have dinner or whatever it may be, he's just a normal guy. He's a great dude. He's from a great family too.
It's crazy to think about. Like he was the first quarterback that took UIW to a playoff
Yep.
uh, appearance. The very next year, Lindsey Scott comes in,
Yep.
has a Walter Payton a winning award season, and now the guy that kind of started, not really started it all, but kind of really jumped, started kind of the program and kind of looking at UIW as a national power at the FCS level. Now he's going for a Heisman. It's
Yeah.
pretty nuts to
No
see
doubt.
how UIW and some of these players are continuing to
Yeah.
go forward.
We've had a good lineage of quarterback play all the way from even before Cam. I mean, John Copeland was a heck of a player. I think he was a freshman All-American and freshman of the year in the conference. So pretty much since about 2018 till now, we've had some really good quarterback play.
And we gonna dive into some of that quarterback play with
Yeah.
the win versus Northern Arizona. Coming after this quick break, we'll recap the win as well as preview the Prairie View A&M game this weekend. Don't go anywhere.
As the lead college recruiting manager at AT&T's global headquarters, I had the unique privilege of being the first connection for students beginning their professional journeys. My own education was enriched by professors who were industry experts with real-world experience. And now, I take pride in helping the next generation of leaders navigate the opportunities in store for them after college.
My name is Nick, and my journey began in San Antonio, Texas at the University of the Incarnate Word.
Winchester Pub and live on YouTube. This is the UIW Coaches Show. Before we get into the Northern Arizona win, we want to recognize some sponsors. Las Palapas Mexican restaurants have been serving award-winning tacos and the finest margaritas since 1981, and they're a proud partner of UIW Athletics. Las Palapas, located on 1208 Austin Highway, is offering their special UIW menu with great deals every Thursday starting at 5 p.m. Check them out there at laspalapas.com. Coach, you go to Las Palapas very often?
It's been a long time since I went to Las Palapas. I think I was in college when I went.
Really?
Yeah, it was one of those late nights, man. Ended up at Las Palapas with some chips and queso. So.
Have a margarita as well?
No.
No?
Never.
I was going to say, do you get breakfast or dinner or lunch more?
I'm a big enchilada guy, so I'm gonna get the enchiladas.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I was going to say, you can't go wrong with breakfast tacos,
Yeah,
bacon and
no doubt.
eggs. But We'll dive into the win versus the Lumberjacks, 38-14 win versus Northern Arizona 2 weeks ago. And the first thing that came to my mind when talking to you after the game was asking, the big question was, can we get some consistency for all 4 quarters?
Yeah.
And you said that y'all played one of your more complete
Yeah.
games, a 3-phase win, and then you felt like you played all 4 quarters.
Yeah.
What kind of impressed you most about each side of the ball in that game?
Yeah, my perspectives probably changed a little bit after I watched the tape. We probably played 3 out of the 4, to be totally honest with you. I didn't love the start. I didn't think that we started fast on either side of the ball. And I talked to the team about that this past week during the bye week. That was a big emphasis too. I mean, we have to play 4 quarters of football, and we have to start fast. And to think about what we can do, and we're able to do that is pretty exciting. You know what I mean? But just takeaways from the game. I think our defense came alive. I mean, how many 4th down stops? We had 4 or 5 4th down stops. We had a couple turnovers. We ran the football really effectively. DeKalen Taylor is really coming into his own as a full-time running back, and he can do it in all 3 phases. He's good in pass pro. Obviously, he's dynamic with the long touchdown run. Everybody can see when he has the ball in his hands. And with his background as a receiver, he's a threat when he gets out in space, and he can run routes and run away from people. So that was good. I thought that Zach played really well. I thought he managed the game well, and there was other playmakers that were making plays, and he was kind of orchestrating some things. So there was some maturity that he showed, and I thought we played really well up front. We talk about moving people. That was a big emphasis in the spring, and I thought that they did that.
Yeah, and kind of going off of what you said of 3-phase win and
Yeah.
playing 3 of 4 quarters, how do you measure that when you're looking at, did we play for all 4 quarters? I know you said post game you felt like you played all 4 quarters, but
Yeah.
now you're saying after looking at it, felt like you played 3 complete.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit of a feel thing. Just an energy feel to start. I didn't think it was on par. Obviously I said we played 4 quarters after the game, but I was in a pretty good mood. But just like sitting back and actually getting time to reflect and to myself, I just thought our energy level wasn't where I wanted it to be to start the game. And then obviously it's just execution. For whatever reason, these guys are humans. These guys are 18 to 22-year-old kids. So for whatever reason, I thought early on we just didn't execute simple things. And sometimes you got to strap your helmet on and take a little shot here or there, and it gets you going a little bit. But our execution picked up. I thought we played hard all 4 quarters. I don't think that was
Right.
the issue, which is obviously a positive. But the execution just didn't really start clicking until we got into that late first to second quarter. So
Right. I mean, you even brought a little bit of the juice there at halftime.
Yeah.
Saying you had a little halftime party with some water bottles.
Yeah.
Go
It's
through
a little embarrassing.
those emotions. Like, what made you decide to do that?
Why did I do that?
It's a good question, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Feels like so long ago. Why did I do that, man? We ended the first half with a long field goal, which was good momentum going into the half. And then when we came in and we kind of reflected as a staff, offensively and defensively, I mean, it just again, it came down to execution, just doing what we do and just having excitement about execution. Getting excited about executing a play, whether it's a 5-yard gain or a 60-yard touchdown, a 97-yard touchdown, whatever it may
Right.
be. If you can get excited about consistently executing, that's when you start wearing on people. That's when the explosive plays start happening. That's when tackles for loss and sacks and turnovers and all these momentum plays, even on special teams. I mean, we had a couple huge plays on special teams that were momentum plays. Big hit on a kickoff. Obviously, we had the punt that got fumbled. But just the excitement about execution and excitement about play. I knew that if we came out of half, I knew we were going to get the football. We had the field goal going into halftime, and I knew if we came out with some energy, we can kind of, give them a quick jab to the jaw and get after them real quick. So I just went in there and just started throwing
Stone
water around.
Cold
It was
Steve Austin.
Yeah, just authentic energy, and we jumped around a little bit. Sometimes coaches talk too much. To be totally honest with you, myself included, I'm a culprit of that. And I'll have to catch myself from time to time, like, man, these guys don't want to hear me talk. They just want to go play ball. They just want to get excited and go play football. They know what I got to say. They know I care. So that was where I didn't need to say anything. I just needed to show them that I was excited to go watch them get after it in the second half.
I wish I would have. We would have had some cameras in the corner of the locker room.
There's nothing like a locker room, man. it's hard to replicate. The halftime. It's hard to replicate after a win like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's an intimate setting that you can't recreate. I won't forget that for as long as I live. Those are the periods of time that you do it for. So.
What are your kind of favorite locker room memories of being a player or even being a coach of like that's
Oh,
one
man.
locker room speech or time in the locker room that I'll never forget?
That was up there. Probably 2021 after we beat SFA in the first round for our first playoff victory.
Mhm.
Cam was on that team. I got a picture of it framed in my office. I think Robert Farrell's on somebody's shoulder. Might have been Caleb Johnson's shoulders, Big Show's shoulders. That was a scene. After the Sacramento State win, which was a heck of a game.
Sure was.
Yeah, that was a heck of a game. That was a special locker room after that. Yeah, there's a lot of them, and I mean I could go back to high school. There's a lot of them. When we beat Smithson Valley my senior year, I don't think I've ever seen my dad happier. But yeah, there's a lot of them. It'd take me some time to sit down and really think through them all.
Yeah, there's so many years of football that you got to go through. So,
Yeah.
talking about some of the players that you mentioned that excelled in that game versus the Lumberjacks, Kalen Taylor, Southland Conference Offensive Player of the Week, had a career high 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. And he's one of those guys that on a team for UIW, seen a lot of new faces, but he's been a consistent leader. What kind of describe the performance he had? You already did, but like in a sense of how big it was for him getting his time to shine.
Well, I mean, DeKalen's a special guy. I mean, he carries himself off the field like, I mean, just how you'd write it in a book. He's got a 4.0 GPA. He's got an extremely strong faith. He handles himself the right way. You don't have to worry. When you're not watching him, he's handling himself the right way. He's courteous. He's diligent in his work. He has enough humility to acknowledge his own faults. He just lives the right way, man, and he works his tail off, and you root for a guy like that. And the transition from wide out to running back and kind of the in between that he went through for a couple years from 22 to 23, and then being able to really put him in a setting to where he could just kind of go forward and get better at something. And again, I know how hard he works at it. To see him have that performance was really awesome.
Yeah,
that definitely puts a smile on your face. That adds to the locker room feeling.
Yeah, and he had a 97-yard touchdown, which broke. I mean, we were you and Carl were talking about your record just that week or two before, and what does he do? But you got a front row seat to the 97-yard touchdown.
His 97 looked a lot better than my 90 because he was scooting. He would have scored from 100.
Well,
yeah, he was scooting.
Yeah, what were you thinking when he was streaking down the UIW sideline?
He broke the last cutoff line, and he was out of there. It's a track race at that point, and there's not very many that can catch him in a track race.
How long has he been running track?
Long time. I mean, that was one of the big things out of high school. And he was a late sign for us. I want to say we signed him in the summer of 22. And I remember Coach Kinney kind of bringing him up, and we were looking at him. And he was like, "Man, this guy's just got elite speed." I think he was like a 10-400 guy in high school, but never really kind of found that niche of what he was. Kind of the same dilemma that he had the first couple years at UIW. But yeah, no, he's extremely talented on track. He runs track. He came to me and was asking me, "Hey, can I run?" And I'm good with it. Just make sure you get to the football lifts. Don't miss a football lift.
Exactly.
But, yeah, you can go run track if you want.
That's awesome. How do you kind of manage? It's a lost breed of being dual sport, but how do you manage those?
I think it has to do with the kid. I think it's subjective. Do I trust DeKalen Taylor? And again, he didn't miss a single thing football wise. I said I just don't want it to affect. At the end of the day, the scholarship comes out of my allotment, and your teammates depend on you. And you're a leader on this team, so that has to come second to this. But if you want to do it, I'll support you 100%. But I know how important you are to this team, and I don't want to lose you in that regard. But again, I mean, I trust DeKalen. And a good story about DeKalen Taylor. The week before against Southern Illinois, I talked to him after our team meeting in the hotel, and I told him, "Hey, I'm going to let Isaiah Robinson go first and get the carries, just to start the game, just to try to get some momentum going, a two-headed monster in the rushing attack." He said, "Yes, sir, I totally understand." Didn't even bat an eye. Like, it wasn't even a conversation. Like, 99% of kids, you got to sit there and, have a real conversation and explain the thought process and all these things. And he just looked me dead in the eye. "Yes, sir, I understand."
That's awesome.
I mean, that's how you do it, brother.
Exactly. And another guy that played well for you on the opposite side of the ball, Mr. Williams, Defensive Player of the Week
Yep.
a couple weeks ago in the Southland. And he was a guy that you didn't kind of know kind of game time
Yeah.
decision, him and Tylen Foster. How big was it for you to have both of those guys back at linebacker and playing well against the Lumberjacks, now another week healthier?
Yeah, we didn't have either one of those guys against Southern Illinois, which was tough on us. Obviously, those two guys have made a ton of plays, and Mister being that Mike linebacker, he gets everybody lined up. He gets them in the right spot, and that's half the battle on defense is just being aligned the correct way so that you can have the right allotments of hats, when they run the football. But again, him having him back against Northern Arizona, everybody could kind of see the difference from the yardage and the point totals and all those kinds of things. But he has Mister is a guy of few words. He's not outspoken by any means. He's a little introverted, but when he talks, he really talks with some strong authenticity, and he's intentional about it. And he talked a ton during the week about pride. I kind of had an open. Again, I talk about how I talk to the team and stuff, and me and the whole team had a conversation, and some of the guys kind of stood up and talked, and he talked about playing with pride and getting that pride back in the football team after two really tough road games. And he definitely played with it. And he got the guys around him to play with it too.
Right, you saw it from the defensive standpoint after Northern Arizona took the lead 14 to 7. They never scored for, what was it, 2.5 quarters. And I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that we've seen over the years is the defense continues to be underrated. But under Jim Gush, I think his defensive impacts continue to grow and grow. What have you seen from the old timer, a guy that's been here for 40 years in the collegiate ranks?
40 years. It's a long time. Longer time than I've been on this earth. That's a longer
Me
time
and you
than
both.
Any guy on my staff has been around. He's just consistent. He's the same guy. I mean, nothing changes. He's going to do what he does. He's going to run his defense, and he's going to preach fundamentals and getting your eyes in the right spot. And he's going to call a spade, and he's going to figure out how we got to stop it. And he's just a rock, man. That's what he is to this staff, and that's what he is to this football team. And he's going to continue to do that.
Well, that's all I got for Northern Arizona. Right back after this, we'll preview the Prairie View A&M game here on this weekend. Don't go anywhere here from the Winchester Pub.
As the lead college recruiting manager at AT&T's global headquarters, I had the unique privilege of being the first connection for students beginning their professional journeys. My own education was enriched by professors who were industry experts with real-world experience. And now, I take pride in helping the next generation of leaders navigate the opportunities in store for them after college.
My name is Nick, and my journey began in San Antonio, Texas at the University of the Incarnate Word.
One final segment here on the UIW Coaches Show with head coach Clint Kello. Once again, the Coaches Show is sponsored by Sliver Eagle Beverages and hosted by our partners here at the Winchester Pub here at 5148 Broadway. Good crowd on hand. Hopefully you at home are enjoying yourself a nice beverage there watching the YouTube chat. And Coach, back to the week at hand, Prairie View A&M, and what have you kind of seen from them on film? I know watching game day, didn't think their game would be featured, but playing at the Cotton Bowl against Grambling State, and they had a good one there.
No, they're definitely battle tested. They've been in 3 games that kind of came down to the last play. Obviously a 5 overtime game this past week. They had an overtime game, I think the prior week with Southern, I believe, and then their game against Northwestern State came down to the last play. I think they stopped them on a quarterback sneak. So they're definitely battle tested. They're going to play really, really hard. I think they have some really elite skill positions. They probably have about 5 or 6 wideouts that can really get it. They got a dynamic running back, and they got a guy that came in the second half against Grambling and played really well at the quarterback position. So play hard on defense. They're a good football team. They're going to come here with a chip on their shoulder, that's for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned going 5 overtimes versus Grambling 36 to 34, and even their one kind of non-competitive loss was when they went to East Lansing versus Michigan State. So again, it shows the type of
No doubt.
caliber non-conference team that you're playing. Once again, two
Yeah.
Big Sky teams, as well as two Valley teams. But you mentioned their quarterbacks. They looks like one came in at the end of
Yep.
the game. How do you kind of in your week of prep? Do you prep for just one, or do you prep for both?
Yeah, they have some similarities. I think both those guys throw the football pretty well. They've made some full field cross the hash throws that are pretty impressive. I think they're both dynamic. They can get out of the pocket and utilize their legs to a degree. So I don't think we haven't game plan for one or the other. I mean, I think that they run a good system. I think they have really good coaches over there that have good scheme and stuff. So it's more scheme based for what they do week to week.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a program that you're going to meet for the fourth time.
Yeah.
The first meeting in 2017 went the Panthers' way, but y'all have won back in 2021 and 22.
Yep.
What do you remember about those games, and are you leaning on some of those?
Yeah, what I remember, and I talked to the team about that as well. Dogfights, definitely dogfights, and they're going to play hard. They're going to play for 4 quarters. And they're going to create some problems in game that you're going to have to adjust to. There's not going to be any simplicity to it. I mean, you're going to have to go out there and make adjustments on the fly and execute. Again, it comes down to execution. Football is it can be a very simplistic game, to be totally honest with you. I know it looks super complex and all these things, but it can be very simple. The complexity comes with the fact that it's 11 guys having to do their jobs, and they all have different jobs. You know what I mean? But if you break it down piece by piece, player by player, coach by coach, you can make it pretty simple.
And the talking season like we're doing right now makes it even more chaotic versus just going and
Yep.
playing the game, right?
Yep. No doubt. No doubt.
And it's funny, too, because there's similarities between you and the Panthers head coach, Bubba McDowell. He's been there a long time, 11 years at Prairie View A&M, but this is also his third season as the head coach. It just makes me want to ask you, like, what is your type of coaching style, and how have you kind of molded with your prior experience as a coach or
Yeah.
mentors?
Coaching style. Pretty transparent, I would say. I'd like to think I'm a player's coach, and I think the transparency plays into that. I think that I don't know if there's a kid on my roster right now. A kid, I mean, they're young men. I don't think one of those guys doesn't feel like they could come into my office and shut the door and tell me something real life, and not hold back. Like, tell me the truth. I think they know that I will first look to help them, but I'll also, again, tell them the truth.
Yeah.
So I'd say I'm a player's coach. I'm transparent. Like the guys say, I'm gonna keep it a buck with them, and I'm gonna push them hard. At the end of the day, I just want them to be successful. I was blessed for 23 years of my life to have a male figure in my life that my father doing it the right way. And I know some of these guys never got that, and they weren't blessed like that. This is just my way of repaying that. And I got the best job in the world. These guys are awesome.
Yeah. And kind of looking forward a little bit, this is last 2 weeks ago versus Northern Arizona. Northern Arizona was the first of 4 straight home games. Now you get to play 3 straight.
Yeah.
And we'll be here a lot more very often. But how big is this week? Starting the 3-game homestand going into conference play in another week.
Yeah, no, it's big. It's big. We talked about momentum a little bit earlier. Obviously, anytime you can continue momentum and have momentum on your side in football, that's a huge advantage. But again, this week is no bigger than the other weeks. It's no bigger than Nichols, McNeese, Lamar, Selah. All these games are going to be big again because the conference is good this year. It's always been a quality conference in my opinion. But it's going to be a dogfight every week, and we're going to have to show up and make plays and execute and play together.
Yeah, and that brings me to my final question. What do you want to see from your team this week, and what can Cardinal fans expect to see this weekend?
I want them to come out and play with pride and play with focus. Play with pride and play with focus, because the execution will follow, the plays will follow, and have a blast doing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Coach, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
time. I appreciate everyone that came out to the Winchester Pub, and again, our sponsors, Las Palapas, Sliver Eagle Beverages, and the Winchester Pub. This has been another edition of the UIW Coaches Show. Game is this week. Prairie View A&M comes to town to take on your UIW Cardinals at Benson Stadium.